Good morning, students. Now we are going to study about area vector, electric flux, Gauss's theorem, and its application. In the previous slide, we have discussed about the continuous charge distribution. Then suppose any conducting sheet or a conducting wire or a non-conducting sphere given some charge, then this charge certainly will distribute over the surface of the sphere or the sheet or along the wire. Then this is the case of continuous charge distribution. But from Coulomb's law, we only know we only can find the electric field due to a discrete charge which must be positive. Coulomb's law is only applicable for the point charge. Then using Coulomb's law, we can only find out the electric field due to a point charge or discrete charge distribution, or the combination of charges which must be discrete. But if we want to find out electric field due to a charge sheet or a charge sphere, then we have to use some other technique. So this technique was given by Gauss, which is called as Gauss's theorem. So before starting the Gauss's law, we have to understand what is area. We know that area is written by of a rectangular sheet as length into breadth of a circle pi r square, the area of a sphere as 4 pi r square. But what is area? Area is a scalar or a vector. The area is a vector quantity. A small area of a surface can be represented by a vector which will be perpendicular to that small area. Suppose this small area is ds, then the direction of this area vector will be along the perpendicular to the area, along the normal to the area. So this is the area vector ds, and this ds is written by ds unit vector n, where unit vector n shows the direction of the area vector ds. So this is the area vector. Now using this idea, we can understand about the electric flux. So what is the electric flux? So we know that when there is a charge in the space, then around the charge a physical quantity is established which is called as the electric field, and this electric field represented by solid arrow line from the positive charge. For the positive charge, this arrow must be started from charge to the infinity, while the negative charge from infinity to the charge. But suppose we consider any surface around the point charge, then what will be the number of electric field lines passes through that surface? Then an idea was given by the scientist that measure of electric field lines perpendicular to any surface is termed as electric flux. I am just repeating, the measure of electric field lines, passing perpendicular to the any surface area is known as electric flux. This is not exactly the total number of field lines which can be counted, because number of field lines for a particular charge may be drawn different by the different students. Means same electric field can be represented by the different lines by the different situations. Then the counting of number of electric field lines does not represent directly the electric flux. So, therefore, this electric flux can be defined as a mathematical relation, and that mathematical relation will be dot product of electric field and area. Suppose we are just representing here any surface like this in the uniform electric field. Suppose that ds are the area vector at different places of these surfaces, as this is showing that ds here, and also ds here, this is ds, this is also ds, this is also ds, this is also ds. At every point this area vector is perpendicular to the surface, because for this small area this vector certainly will be perpendicular to the surface, while the direction of electric field is always from left to right side, as shown in this diagram. Then there are different angles of this area vector with the electric field. At this position, angle between area and electric field is 0 degree, while at this is theta, while at this position, angle between area vector and electric field 90 degree. At this position, angle between ds and electric field will be 180 degree, here 180 degree, here again some angle. Then how can we represent the electric flux? The electric flux must be represented by a mathematical relation which is called as the dot product of area vector and, if you want to calculate area vector and electric field, if you want to calculate a small electric flux through the surface ds, then this will be d phi equal to E dot ds. E is the vector, ds is also vector, so this will be E ds cos theta. So this electric field will be E ds cos theta. One second, it's creating some problem. The total electric flux phi, d phi is the small electric flux. So what will be the total electric flux d phi? This can be find out by taking integral of above equation, that phi will be integral over the whole surface E dot ds equal to E s cos theta, means E dot s. So this is the total electric flux 3 for this whole surface. The electric flux is a scalar quantity, but it is the property of electric field. What will be unit of this? Unit can be find out. Now let us consider some special cases for different angles. For theta between 0 degree and 90 degree, what will be the value of electric flux? So electric flux for this must be positive, because cos 01 and cos 90 0, and electric flux phi equal to E s cos theta. For angle equal to 90 degree, phi will be 0. For angle greater than 90 degree but less than 180 degree, this will be negative. So this is the variation of the electric flux from negative to positive. And a term also may be used in this consideration, in this case, in the application of Gauss's theorem, that is the solid angle. The solid angle is a three-dimensional equivalent of ordinary two-dimensional plane angle. Unit of solid angle is steradian. With the help of figure we can represent like this. This is the direction of position vector r. This angle d omega is the solid angle, and this is the normal of this area, means this is the direction of area. Unit vector n gives the direction of area of this solid cone. The area of this plane is ds along the normal, and if the angle between r and normal is theta, then solid angle is represented by ds cos theta by r square. Now if we change the theta, then what will happen? So for the complete circle we can represent omega equal to integral over the whole surface d omega. If you write this value of d omega in this, we can get this result. The maximum value of omega will be 4 pi steradian. So this is about the solid angle. Now let us start Gauss's theorem. This topic is very important for exam point of view. Gauss's theorem is a tool which is used to find out electric field due to a line charge distribution, surface charge distribution, and a volume charge distribution. The Gauss's theorem states that total electric flux passing through a closed area, passing through a closed surface, is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times to the charge enclosed by the surface. The surface mathematically we can state this: the surface integral of electric field intensity, which is nothing but electric flux, over any closed hypothetical surface, and this hypothetical surface is called as the Gaussian surface, in free space is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times the net charge enclosed within the surface. Mathematically this can be represented as phi equal to closed integral. This is the symbol of closed integral. This one is the symbol of closed integral. Okay. So this phi equal to integral E dot ds equal to 1 by epsilon naught sigma I equal to 1 to n qi. So this is the electric flux. Now we can prove this. To find the proof of this Gauss's theorem, consider a spherical cell which encloses a charge at its center plus q. Then now take any small area on this spherical cell. Radius of this sphere is small r, then area vector will be ds. Now electric field for this charge will be outward from charge to the infinity. Then at this surface direction of electric field will be perpendicular to the surface, which is the direction of area vector of this small area ds. Then the small flux d phi through this small area will be equal to E dot ds. Write the value of electric field 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q by r square unit vector r dot ds unit vector n. And we know that r cap is the unit vector, n cap is the unit vector, then dot product of these two will be 1. Then the result will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q ds by r square r dot n dot. R dot n dot is 1 unity. Then total flux through this surface, we can write this total flux through this surface can be calculated by integrating this phi equal to integral d phi. Now substitute this value, then everything is constant, 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q by r square taken outside the integral, because integration is over the surface, and for the surface r is constant, q is also constant, and integral ds means total surface area. Integral ds means total surface area of the spherical shell, that is 4 pi r square. Now solving this, we can get the result q upon epsilon naught. So this is the proof of Gauss's theorem. This is the proof of Gauss's theorem. Then Gauss's, I repeat again statement of Gauss's theorem, total electric flux, this is phi, total electric flux, this total electric flux, this is equal to the 1 by epsilon naught times to the charge enclosed by a hypothetical closed surface. So here hypothetical closed surface is the sphere. Hypothetical closed surface is the sphere which encloses the charge plus q. So this is the Gauss's theorem. Now after this we will apply this Gauss's theorem to calculate the electric field for different shapes. Here is another proof of Gauss's theorem for a closed surface of any shape. So there is no much more difference between this proof and proof given earlier. Just in this, in place of integration, we just use the summation sign and we can get the result easily. Deduction of Coulomb's law from Gauss's law means what is the relation between Coulomb's law and Gauss's law. We can correlate these two. So suppose a charge plus q is placed at O, which is the center of any hypothetical sphere, then from Gauss's law we can find the electric flux, this q upon epsilon naught. Since E and ds are in the same direction, therefore pi will be q upon epsilon naught. Now we can find the electric field for this. Just reverse this, electric field will be equal to, from this electric field will be equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q by r square. This is the electric field. If a charge q naught is placed at any point where E is calculated, then means if we place a q naught at the surface of this sphere of radius small r, then we can find the force F equal to q naught by 4 pi epsilon naught r square, which is the Coulomb's law. Means there is no much more difference between Gauss's law and Coulomb's law. Both are equivalent to each other. Now application of Gauss's theorem. So from the Gauss's theorem, using the Gauss's theorem, we can calculate electric field for different shapes. So in this case we are going to apply Gauss's theorem to find the electric field intensity due to an infinitely long straight charged wires. So suppose we have a straight charged wire, then this is of infinite length. Then suppose that some charge is given to this, and if we consider a length, small length, for this, let us suppose that a Gaussian surface, for this case Gaussian surface must be like this, which can enclose some charge within the surface. So for this we are considering here a cylindrical Gaussian surface which encloses some charge of this line charge distribution, that is charge distributed over the wire. Suppose the length of Gaussian cylinder taken as L, radius of Gaussian cylinder is R. Then consider a small area on the plane surface of Gaussian cylinder. Then the area vector will be perpendicular to this surface and electric field will be perpendicular to the wire. electric field will be perpendicular to wire. Similarly, if we consider a small surface just opposite side to the one plane surface, again ds will be perpendicular to this plane surface. Now electric field for at this place, one second, creating some problem. ds so from Gauss's law, applying Gauss's law, we have phi equal to integral E dot ds q upon epsilon naught. Integral E dot ds equal to integral E dot ds for all surfaces. For surface A, plane surface A, plane surface B, for plane surface C. So C is the curved surface. From all these surfaces, we are just saying here, for surface A, ds and E at 90 degree, for B also ds and E at 90 degree, but for curved surface, ds and E along the same direction. So for these two surfaces A and B, the integral will be 0 because there will be cos 90. So we can write like this: for A, E ds cos 90, for B, E ds cos 90, for C, E ds cos 0. After integrating these two terms, A and B will be 0, while the third term gives you E integral ds. Then we can write this.